You got Mac and Mac, McDonald and McMullen with our bud, Paul Domowitch. That's a nice one, Tim. You got nice shirts, Dom. I got to give you credit. And the wife keeps buying them for you, despite the fact that she doesn't like the beard, huh?
Playoff beard's still there. Yeah,
she's okay with it. She's okay with it.
Okay.
Now you said you weren't going to shave until the Eagles won again. I think this week seems like an easy one, but maybe not if they're not playing everybody. Yeah. So probably heard me and Jody. We've been talking about it all week. To me, it's pretty simple. You just scoreboard watch. What's your philosophy in this type of circumstance?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same. I mean, they just keep an eye on that Cowboy game. I mean, I think it's important that they play long enough that they need to get some sort of good feeling about their starters in this game before they, no matter what's going on, even if it's 28-0 after the first quarter in the Cowboy game, they need to have their guys coming out of this game with a good feeling about their, how they're playing going into the playoffs.
So if it's 14-13 Eagles at half, you're running your star players out there, and it's 28-0 Dallas at half, you're running your star players out there, take the kickoff of the second half.
For a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, that's same as me.
Yeah, we'll see how they handle it. And obviously, when everybody talks about preseason environment, you don't have 90 players. So even, some guys are going to have to play no matter what the whole game. And most of the young players, I would think, are going to have to play the whole game. So that factors into it as well. But Damo's Stat Pack this week is on JAKIBSports.com, so you can check it out there. It's live right now. And you lead with the second half defensive struggles, which have been pretty eye-opening. Now, all the defense, I mean, you can't find a good stat when it comes to this defense at this stage. But the second half collapses have been, I dare say, even strange. I mean, the Arizona Cardinals, you can talk about Jonathan Gannon knows them. You can talk about James Conner and how good he is and how tough he can break tackles and all that stuff. But four touchdowns in a row to the Arizona Cardinals. What is going on with this defense? Sean Desai, Matt Patricia. I can't even put a finger on it. It's like it just moves around. It's like it might be the front one week. It's usually the back seven. Might be the linebackers, might be the secondary, might be the young players, might be the veteran players like James Bradbury not playing up to his reputation. Is it just everything, Dama?
Yeah, I think it is. I think Nick picked a bad time to make this major move with his coordinators. Now they're trying to make changes to a system that, we're seeing things that even, that are being openly questioned, dropping Hassan Reddick into coverage 7 times Sunday.
Was it really 7?
7 times, yeah.
Wow, I didn't know it was that much. I knew it was more than need be, but it was 7?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Most since he's been here in a game. Going with one linebacker and 5 defensive linemen. Guys don't know what gap they're supposed to be in, or I got to believe that's it with a guy like Shaq Leonard. Plus, it's just, my feeling is it's not going to, even when, you get Zach Cunningham back at some point, getting Slay back this week, it's not going to get much better defensively. The only hope for this team going forward is if this offense can become a 4-quarter offense, which it isn't, because as I mentioned in the story, it's also disappeared the second half. They've been outscored 105 to 50. That's 10 points per second half. They were averaging in their first 11 games. Jalen Hurts had his passer rating up above 100. They were averaging 15 points per third and fourth quarter. If they can at least get that offense going, they could do what Kansas City did for years before Steve Spagnuolo got his offense going, and that's outscore people. That's their only hope.
Damo, on the corners, you mentioned, looks like they got Slay back. We don't know. They got him back full practice yesterday. John's got a major worry about the turf up there at MetLife. It's to be determined how much Slay's going to play. Whatever he plays, let's say he plays some, he looks like Slay. So you're just assuming he's going to be what Slay is. If Bradbury has another bad game and Ricks and or Ringo some time, be it to get the other guys off the field or have Slay on a pitch count, and they play better, is there a chance you're not starting Slay and Bradbury in the playoff game? Has Bradbury's play dissipated enough for you to consider not having him out there come postseason?
Well, if I had somebody to replace him, it would. But I mean, how much confidence do they have right now in Kelly Ringo or Eli Ricks? You're hopeful with Ringo sometimes, but he hasn't shown me enough consistency to think that I'd put him out there in a playoff game before James Bradbury. I think I would just cross my fingers, and hope I'm getting one last good game out of Bradbury. But again, with the defense, their only hope is that pass rush. They also have to stop the run, which has become a sieve. But I mean, we saw last week that they rush, they don't get there. The ball's out quickly. Somehow they've got to figure out a way to get pressure on quarterbacks if they're going to go anywhere. And I don't think there's a whole lot of hope that this is a team that can get beyond the wild card game.
Well, the interesting part, and I think you both know, I'm not a big fan of this scheme in general. I think teams around the league have seen it so much they've caught up. I think that's how it works in this league. It happened to Tony Dungy. It happened to Pete Carroll. I think it's happening to Vic Fangio, who himself gave up 56 against a very good team, but 56 is 56. Domo, that ain't good.
Yeah.
So I'm not a big fan, and you had an interesting note that the Eagles have given up 27 touchdown drives of 75 yards or more this season. So 75, obviously, most kickoffs these days are touchbacks. That's where you start. The whole point of this defense is, all right, make them go. These long drives, they'll make a mistake. Well, they're not making mistakes. They're just taking it.
Yeah.
So at what point do you say, you know what? This ain't working.
Yeah.
I got to ship. Now, that's for the offseason. But do you think Nick Sirianni's at that point?
I guess. But, I mean, before he made the change with Desai tried blitzing more. That didn't work. They're just not getting to the quarterback, which is about the biggest change you can make. I mean, they've switched up their coverages. They just don't have good enough people back there. Their tackling's been horrible. I mean, how do you – aside from it's a little late to correct tackling technique. I saw the other day, he said, well, this was kind of an anomaly. No, it really wasn't. The 13 missed tackles were the same amount they had against Buffalo when they almost lost that game. They're pretty close to numbers.
Now, I will say this, though, Domo. In their defense, I hate to be devil's advocate. Nobody tackles. They're the fourth best tackling team. I looked at it from PFF. They're in Nick's mind, like missed tackle. They're third. Nobody tackles. So that part to me is baked in. Now the run fits are atrocious.
Yeah.
They and it would be great if people can tackle. And Matt Patricia gave a great answer about how you teach technique to tackle, because you can't tackle in practice. We have this discussion all the time.
Right.
Nobody can tackle. So, I mean, they're better than most, which I think is what Nick was trying to say. And to be fair, by most analytics, he's right in that instance. But nobody can tackle, I would say.
No, I mean, the rules have impacted that as much as anything in the league, with the restrictions on off-season practices and training camp wearing pads in training camp a certain amount of days. But I just don't see this defense making, no matter what they do, no matter who they get back. Like I said, the difference is going to, Jalen Hurts is going to have to take this team, pick it up by the scruff of its neck, and play better than he's been playing for 4 quarters. Because as I mentioned in the story, you look at his numbers in the second halves of these last 5.
Yeah. I was
They've been
going to
as
get
bad
to
as
that.
the defense.
That was an ugly number. I
Yeah.
think you used Mitch Trubisky-ish
Yes,
passer rating.
71.2 passer rating in the last 5 games, second
Yeah.
half.
That's not
Well,
good.
AJ Brown, and this is one of the reasons. Obviously, he's been pouting. He and Smith have 1 touchdown catch in the second half in the last 5 games, and that's by Smith.
Yeah, yeah.
That's not good. You are right, Damo. And AJ came out this week, spoke to the media after taking downtime, because if there's not something nice to say, his mama taught him, don't say anything at all. Well, he had nice things to say. And it seemed like they were in a better place. Shoot, he even went so far as to take his coaches back by admitting, yeah, me and Jalen were making it up down the sidelines in Seattle a couple of weeks ago. We're just kind of going by the seat of our pants there, which was kind of surprising. Will there be a difference on the field on Sunday? AJ can't throw the ball to himself, although I think he'd like to try. It's going to have to come from either Nick Sirianni and or Brian Johnson and or Jalen Hurts, that AJ Brown becomes a bigger part of the offense. Will we see that on Sunday? And if so, will it have anything to do with the things that AJ Brown had to say off the field this week?
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll see them. You know, I mean, for a few weeks, John, you've probably heard the same thing about possibly, Jalen changing plays at the line that, weren't green lighted by Brian. I think he's taken some liberties with their relationship during the course of this first year as him being offensive coordinator. I think they need to follow the game plan a little bit more and listen to what Johnson and Sirianni are calling. And but I expect this week both of them to have really good games. I think we're going to see AJ Brown light it up. I think, assuming, I mean, we don't know how long they're going to be out there, obviously, but let's assume they play more than a half. I think both of them are going to have some success this week against this Giants defense.
Yeah, when it comes to AJ's White House presser, because that's sort of the attention it got. Yeah. But what stood out most to me was that what you just talked about and what Jody just said, him saying, hey, we improvised at the end of the Seattle game. Now, you just mentioned Jalen taking maybe some liberties with Brian Johnson and their relationship. Is it that word that because I wrote about that immediately, and it seems like everybody was writing about the other stuff, and I said, did I get this wrong? Is this not a big deal? And then sort of everybody picked up on it yesterday, but if he said audible, would it have been, was it just the word he used? Improvise, freelance, something like that, other than a typical audible? Because if you see what you think is man-to-man coverage and you're taking a shot down the field, that's how Seattle won the game. Same thing. Mm-hmm. That's how they won the game, when they took advantage of Bradbury in man coverage with a go route. So I don't have a problem with that mentality, but is it literal freelancing, or do you think it's just audibles at the line of scrimmage?
I think on occasion it's been literal freelancing, John. I don't know how much. I don't think a lot, but it's been at key situations. And, Jalen's not at that point in his development that he can do that. If when he's surprising Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni, that's not good. They need to be in sync right now going forward. And I'm not sure they are completely in sync. I thought this was going to be a great relationship. I still think it will be. My God, he's known him since he was 4 years old. Spent the last 2 as his quarterback's coach. But I did a story for 33rd Team, and I was talking to Rich Gannon about the relationship between the two of them. And he said, and he was talking about how, quarterback coach is so much different than being a guy's offensive coordinator. Quarterback's coach, you're just, you remember when Press Taylor was here.
Press and Carson, yeah.
And everybody thought it was a horrible idea when they promoted, when there was talk about him becoming offensive coordinator, because he was more like Jalen's buddy as a quarterback's coach. I mean, as
Carson's buddy.
Carson's buddy. So, I mean, that's the line you have to change. That's what changes when you become an offensive coordinator. And I think it's taken some time in their relationship. I don't think they've been on the same page a lot of the time this season. With some of his, with some of Jalen's throws, I think some of his deep balls have kind of been him just wanting to go when I got to believe that on a lot of those where we've seen a couple of games ago where he had, that throw at the end of the game where he's got Devontae Smith open underneath and he still airs it out to AJ, things like that I think they haven't been on the same page with, that have to change at some point, either before this season's over or quickly next season in this relationship, assuming Brian's back. I don't expect him to be fired, but believe it or not, I mean, he's going to be getting some interviews for head coaching jobs.
Oh yeah. I've been telling Jody he's well regarded around the league. Yeah, there's always a little bit of disconnect. Now there's certain guys, Ben Johnson, Detroit, he's going to be the hot candidate, but yeah, I think he's going to get interviews. Now maybe he's taking a hit as far as getting a job, but I don't think there's any question he's getting interviews.
Yeah.
You both use the plural of that word, interviews, as in more than one. Yeah, I'll take the under. I don't think it's happening. We'll see if you're right. And I'll certainly take the under on him getting a head coaching job. The under is a half. I'll take the under. He will not be getting a head coaching job, and I don't even think he'll get multiple interviews. But again, part of what we do is defining things. So I'm going to use a term I know you know, Damo. You're not a beat guy. You're not there every day, but you were forever. So you probably experienced this at least once, if not multiple times. When a coach loses a locker room, some people were suggesting this week that Nick Sirianni had lost the locker room. The players took Nick's back, specifically A.J. Brown, but others as well. That is not the case, that they still believe in Nick. They still fight for Nick. They know Nick fights for them and covers for them, that he has not lost this locker room. When did you know? If you were covering a team on a given year, when did you know a coach had lost the locker room? If you and I can get on the same mental page of what the losing of the locker room is, how do you know that it has happened?
Generally, I mean, you're talking to these guys every day, players. I mean, some will be honest with you off the record, and that obviously gives you an idea. Or just what they're saying on the record sometimes is enough. Plus, and then you watch them play. So, I mean, it's a bunch of things together. From a distance, I don't see that happening yet here. I mean, there's frustration. I mean, my God, this is a team that walked through the season last year, made it to the Super Bowl. The problem, and I've said this since last year after they went to the Super Bowl, and pointed out how just one team since 1994 has gone back after losing a Super Bowl. You get that far. The expectations are so high, especially when your entire offense almost is coming back with a franchise quarterback. You think it's going to be easy. And it's not. Teams have changed how they're going to play you because they've been targeting you the entire off season and planning for how they're going to defend you. And and then and add all that to the fact that your defense just you lose 5 starters.
Yes.
Some of the
and
people,
a coordinator, both coordinators.
Some of the people that have replaced them have not panned out. So we're not at that point like we were last year, where everything how we touched turned to gold. So. I mean, add all that together. It's immensely hard to get back. And when you kind of get to a point where you realize that maybe you're not going back, and I'm sure that's kind of hit them the last few weeks. This isn't as easy as we thought it was going to be to get back to the Super Bowl, and maybe we're not going to do it. Well, that reality kind of has a frustration level that we're seeing now. Now, is that the same as losing the locker room? I don't think so. I mean, I think Nick, I think they like Nick enough to that he's still their guy. But there are problems. I mean, the frustration level has to. I mean, they need to kind of rally among themselves and realize that they've just got to play better and harder if they're going to overcome what they're facing right now.
Yeah, I mean, I've been talking about this, I feel, since training camp. I mean, the weight of those expectations, Damo. I mean, people can talk about, putting it aside and not paying attention to the outside noise, but this was, and then to get up to the 10-1 start, which I didn't see coming. Jody and I do our predictions before the season. I said this was a 12-win team. Jody said this was a 12-win team. And I said, if you had to go, Jody has got this great exercise. If you have to go up or down from your prediction, what do you do? I like that part of it. And I went down. I went down to 11.
Yeah.
If they had a start, Mike Gill brought this up yesterday. I thought it was a good point. If they started like 7-3 and they're 11-5 now, even that I think would lessen the angst in the people wanting to jump off the wall with me a little bit and say, hey, we're still in it. We got a chance. Maybe the Eagles can make a run, all that kind of stuff. But your point of the Super Bowl, this was the most, and I think Jeff McClain used the term first, so I'll give him credit, your old colleague. They were miserable at 10-1. At 10-1, it was the most miserable 10-1 team you've ever seen. It's like, everything about style points and this and that. In hindsight, it shouldn't be a surprise. I didn't think it'd get to this point where they lose 4 of 5, but boy, the expectations really weighed this team down. And I think the biggest point is Sean Desai.
Yeah.
Nick started thinking about making a move when they were 8-1. Why would that even cross your mind? Why would that even cross your mind? All right, you're not playing as well as you expected. I think that was a panic move, Dama. I think that was sign number 1.
Absolutely. I mean, just flip-flop the seasons. Take the season and make it 2022 before you've gotten to the Super Bowl. There'd be no, everybody be happy with these close, ugly wins. The players would be, hey, there'd be no questions. But you go to the Super Bowl, and then suddenly, like you said, the style points enter into here. Everybody's asking whether you're this year's Minnesota Vikings with these, close wins, and how real are you? What's going? And then they get to that expected 5-game gauntlet, and it's not just that they lost those games; it's just that they played badly, got blown out of several of them, and that's caused everything that's unraveled since, both with their frustration and our outlook on where they're going.
All right, so they go to MetLife Stadium on Sunday. They have their way of handling their business, still to be determined. We have the way we think they should be handling their business. There will be an opponent on the field. That'll be the Giants, and the Eagles have history with the Giants. Played them once this year, all of 11 days ago. Seems like a lifetime ago, doesn't it? Because the Arizona Cardinals did what they did the Giant game. It's so forgotten. It was 11 freaking days ago. Anyway, here's what scares me about the game on Sunday. The Giants have nothing to lose. I get it. They've also got nothing to win. But sometimes when a team has nothing to lose and they can pay footloose and fancy free, all the pressure comes off. I was just talking about how the Eagles have been weighed down by the pressure all year of expectation. Yes, that's exactly a part of the reason why the Eagles haven't played the way they're supposed to. Maybe the Giants as a playoff team last year, the way they built the team, they had expectation, not Eagle expectation, but expectations, and they've fallen flat on their face. At least the Eagles are still in the fight. The Giants aren't. Could they just come out and give a throw the stuff at the wall and see what sticks kind of effort and actually play the Eagles real tough? Because who the hell cares?
Yeah, I've been covering this game for 40 plus years, Jody. And, I've seen Eagle teams that are in the Giants situation. I've seen other teams in that situation. And you just don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I've seen teams that have come out and having given an inch of effort. That they just want to go home and get to the off season. They couldn't care less about the game. And I've seen other teams that have said just what you've expressed right there. That it's our last game. I gotta show Brian Dable I belong on this team next year. I need to play hard. and they go out and play a terrific game and maybe upset a team that's better than them. So it's just impossible to say which Giants team you'll get on Sunday.
Along those lines, last week, and they were on the same time the Eagles, so I'm guessing most of our listeners didn't see one of it. I only saw highlights on the Red Zone. They hung tough with the Rams.
Yeah.
They even had a shot at a field goal. Mason Crosby, old man that he is, had a chance to make a
Yeah, should have won the game. How long was that field goal?
I want to say 55 plus.
Yeah,
it wasn't 60.
That's
it was
tough.
It was over 50.
That's tough.
I'll take a peek real fast. But they did. They hung right in against them. Does that increase their chances of playing the kind of football I just described, footloose, fancy, free, and good? Or does it decrease it because you took your shot last week and you still lost the Rams? So now you got nothing left in the tank. Which is more likely?
I think it means, they didn't quit last week. So it probably increases the likelihood that they won't quit this week. They'll play one more game hard. I mean, the Rams aren't the Rams went into that game. They're a pretty good team. I mean, they're playing pretty well right now, or had been.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that bodes well for the Giants.
I said earlier, if you're somebody who likes to put a few shekels on these games, I would run away from this week in the NFL. I mean, you don't know who's playing. You don't know what. But with the Giants, I would lean towards them giving it their all for not only the reasons you mentioned, Damo, but the Eagles have dominated them so thoroughly over the years that they just want to beat this team, and by hook or by crook at some point. So I do think they're going to give it their all, and that makes them dangerous. And I'll leave it here with you and go back to your stat pack at JAKIBsports.com. Make sure you follow Damo, P Damo on X, Twitter. Devontae Smith might not play. Hasn't practiced yet this week. Now, I never say never with Devontae because he's back. He's like the elastic man. I thought he was out for the season after the game. He had crutches on. He was on the crutches. He had the walking boot on. And all of a sudden, 2 days later, they're gone. And he's walking around with no limp in the locker room. But he hasn't practiced this week. He might miss his first game. And that third receiver spot has been an issue for the Eagles all year. Julio Jones has 9 catches. Olamide Zaccheaus has 8. Quez Watkins has 7.
Who gets the double digits this week?
Julio,
I didn't know those were the numbers.
Well, here's where I want to go. You brought up, why not Grant Calcaterra? Why not more 12 personnel? Now, obviously, Jack Stoll is going to be involved as well. But for the receiving part, they have been a better team when they have 2 tight ends on the field recently. Why not? Hey, Julio does some nice things in the red zone, had 2 touchdowns. He's on a pitch count, as Nick Sirianni said, because of his age, and it came in late. So he's going to play, but they limit him. I don't want Quez on the field. I don't want Olamide on the field. Give me the extra tight end. Am I crazy?
You're not. I mean, just look at the numbers from last week, John, in the last 2 weeks. I mean, it's not only been the fact that they've been able to run better out of 12 personnel, but look at Jalen's numbers out of 12. I mean, he's like, I want to say, I forget what I have in my stat pack.
19 of 20 for 204 yards with 12 and 13 over the last 3 games.
So,
that's
I mean,
pretty good.
I mean, as I mentioned 2 weeks ago, when he started playing 12, the time's come to take advantage. I mean, you get a good look at Calcaterra. He might not be the greatest blocker in the world, but I think he's progressed enough that he can get in people's way and he can catch the ball. I mean, he is a legitimate pass catching tight end. I mean, take advantage of him. And I mean, I think that, this is kind of crazy to say this probably, but if Devontae doesn't play, I think it actually will be good for Jalen because it's going to force him to look around and use other options instead of getting this tunnel vision, because he can't get tunnel vision just with A.J. Brown if Devontae's not on the field, because they're going to take A.J. away. So he's going to be forced to look at options. So it'll be interesting.
All right. My last question for you, Damo, is a breakdown percentage question. It's going to be in 3 groups. One of the things that scares me about the upcoming game against the Giants is they made James Conner look like O.J. Simpson last week. That's not good. James Conner's a nice back. He runs hard. He tries hard. He can do a little bit of everything. He wasn't named to a Pro Bowl this week, despite the fact that he looked like a Pro Bowl back against the Birds last week. Saquon Barkley is that good. He's legit. The Eagles and the Giants are going to play on Sunday. And then we're going to get through the playoffs. We'll see if we have a parade. Doubtful. And then they're going to start the 2024 season. And let's say the Giants and Eagles are playing, either in Philadelphia or up the Turnpike. Where will Saquon Barkley be? Percentage chance he's a New York Giant? Percentage chance he's on one of the other 30 teams? Percentage chance he's a Philadelphia Eagle?
Oh, can I go on the last one?
I'm asking, but Damo first. 3 percentages. You got to come up with 100. Giants, other 30 teams, Philadelphia Eagles. Give me a percentage breakdown.
30% Giants, 68% other team. And what's that leave? Whatever that leaves, 1 or 2%.
2%. You left the door open. That I'm going 0 for the Eagles. 0.
I was being generous. That's right.
0. I go 50 for the Giants, 50 for the opposite, and 0 for the Eagles.
Yeah.
I mean, the Eagles just proved they got a Pro Bowl running back, people. And guess what? They had a Pro Bowl running back last year. So that part of it has worked out for Howie. You just,
Hey, here's the thing, too. I mean, the Eagles have a guy that's going to become a free agent.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean.
I'm not all that sure. DeAndre
I'm with you on a 2%, Damo. I'm not at 0. And it's maybe
Saquon wants way too much money. Saquon wants not that he's not a good player. He just wants to be paid at the top level of the position, as he should want. And the Eagles aren't paying top level of the position to a running back. That's why I'm at 0.
I mean, is Swift going to be back? Do you think he'll be back?
No, he's played too well.
Yeah, he's played himself out of the
market. And they'll get somebody else, and he'll probably go to the Pro Bowl. And they'll go about it that way.
And although all 3 of us agree on it, do we all agree it's not good? That I know they've gotten away with it the last 2 years. All I got to do, look at Miles. Look at what Swift did. Sooner or later, they're due to be bit by the we're investing squadouche in the running back position, are they not?
I'm sorry, but who was the running back for the Chiefs last year when they won the Super Bowl?
Isaiah Pacheco.
7th round rookie. Yeah. I mean, that's what the league has come to. That's their whole team.
At least he was a rookie, and at least he was a draft pick.
Well, that's what the Eagles are going to do next year. They're going to draft one.
You think so?
Maybe.
It's not going to. I'd like to know, since we're making predictions here, what round will that be?
It's not going to be.
As per Paul Domowitch, the Eagles starting running back next year, their lead back, will be a draft pick selection. What round is that coming, Damo?
Day 3.
Yeah. Thank you, Damo. Because I want to stem the tide already, because we might be talking about the draft quicker than we want to start talking about the draft, Jody. It ain't going to be in the first round. So whatever running back you fall in love with, the Eagles aren't taking them, period.
Yeah. There really is.
And Jody, do not forget, they will have one guy back who you believe in. Kenny Gainwell will be back.
The third day draft pick. That's about what Kenny Gainwell's worth. Damo, always a pleasure, brother. Appreciate it. Hopefully a chance to shave next week. If you don't, we're having you on. We don't care. The wife may care, but we love you anyway you come. Thanks, bud. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Damo.
Read his stat pack at JAKIBSports.com. Damo breaks it down.
I saw a Dalvin Cook met. Why weren't the Eagles interested in Dalvin Cook? I'm like, come on, people.
I'll explain to those who question. I'll explain Dalvin Cook and why he landed where he landed, and why he didn't land with the Eagles. Because it's legit to ask about the Eagles.
Because they got a Pro Bowl running back. Why are you worried about Dalvin Cook?
I would take a chance with Dalvin Cook over Rashad Penny at this point. I'd pick up Dalvin Cook and just bring him in for a workout and see what he can do. And if he can't beat Rashad Penny out, then that's a major issue. The Ravens can do it because they got 2 weeks to get him up to speed. The Eagles don't.
They also
They're going to get a bye.
75 injured running backs. How many backs have the Ravens gotten injured this year? It's crazy.
A bunch, but Edwards is healthy right now, and he's their lead guy. That's all they need is the hammer in front of Lamar getting out there making plays with his legs. But they've got the extra week. That's what it's going to be all about, is getting a guy up to speed and be able to evaluate, give yourself in the limited amount of practice time that they have, because they've collectively bargained it all away. You can get a legit look if you got 2 weeks. The Eagles have like 2 walkthroughs in one practice to find out if Dalvin Cook can play. Really?
Right, yeah. And by the way, the Rashad Penny is not the correct comp, because Rashad Penny doesn't play. So why are you bringing in somebody who doesn't play for somebody else who isn't going to play? Who cares? You just keep your guy. If you're trying to argue that he's better than Swift or he's better than Gainwell, well, he was. Don't get me wrong. He was one of the best running backs, but the Vikings got that one right. He's not the same player he was. Number one. And number two is he I mean, at this stage of the game, if you think they're going to bench Kenny Gainwell for Dalvin Cook, I got a large suspension bridge in Brooklyn I want you to take a look at. Come on.
Just because they wouldn't doesn't mean they shouldn't consider it. That would be my take. But then again, as now you pointed out and Paul Domowitch pointed out, not the biggest Kenny Gainwell fan. Whether it's a bubble screen on third down or any other play that they get it to Kenny Gainwell, I think they're lucky if they get production out of him. They have an inexplicable desire to make Kenny Gainwell part of this offense that just befuddles me. All right, he's McMullen. I'm McDonald. We've got Chris Franklin from NJ.com going to join us coming up in a couple here on Birds 365.